Welcome back to Talking Hip Hop. I'm your host, JustKeekz, and today's guest is Shqdel.
A balloon grazed by needles, auto irrigation over watered seed. I'm drenched in the liquid leaking from the spheres that seek softness. Emotional blowback, you'll regret you unlock this blackness. Then back from the salmonella ramen, heart dangling from a bangle on my sleeve. Too honest, unblock the fifth and harness fourth. Alchemize to art, then slip and sink into a sonic vortex.
From performing alongside local artists at Kensington's Market's Living in Technicolor event to opening the show for the Hustle virtual concert and being involved in GBC's International Women's Day rally, Shqdel has made it clear that she wants to evoke change. She encourages her listeners to lead with love and peace. Shqdel hopes her music can create a sense of belonging and acceptance. Her music is creative, inspiring, and invigorating. Please welcome to the show, Shqdel.
Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
I am honestly really good.
That's good.
How about you?
I'm happy. I'm excited to do this interview with you. I just want to give our viewers a brief background. Like, Shqdel and I haven't known each other for a long time, but whenever I speak to her, it feels like I knew her in like a past life or like something like that. It's insane.
Right? I was just talking about that. Like,
Yeah.
I've only seen you a handful of times, but every time has been so potent. Like, we get really deep in conversation.
Yeah. And I know like this interview is going to be amazing because like our conversations are just out of this world. So I first wanted to just like, I want to jump into how long have you been doing music for, or like, when did you notice that talent?
So I think more seriously, I've been doing music for the past 2 years or 3 years.
Wow.
I've always been very expressive, and my parents are both very musical. I grew up with a lot of music always playing. My mom is really good at singing. My dad can play the guitar. And ever since I was young, and I'm Filipina, so obviously at like the fam jams, it was always like, oh, your kid could sing, like my kid could sing too. And it's like, from young, it was always encouraged. So it was one of the things that I found were immediately, like, it was immediately so important to me from young, like ever since I could remember.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm shocked that you said you've been doing it a little over 2 years, because it sounds like when I've watched you perform, it's like, seems like you've been doing it for forever. So
Yeah, I mean, it's always like a weird question for me to answer because it's like in my mind, I have been doing this forever, but more intentionally and more considering it as like my craft as opposed to just like my way of being.
yeah.
Like I get to merge the two together now. But yeah, like because singing has always been my main outlet for going through all of life, like celebrations and the pain. Like I always would sit in my washroom, and because of the acoustics, and I remember I would take my mom's phone and just record my voice.
Yeah.
And just sing however I'm feeling. Like I would just be singing to myself to like comfort myself. And then I would listen to it back, and I remember being young and be like, is it conceited that I like my voice? And I'd be like, whoa, this is comforting. Like this might be comforting to others too.
Yeah.
It it was a weird conversation I had with myself, but a lot of my music is a conversation with myself.
Why this career path? Like, why singing? Why is it so meaningful to you? And like, why did you choose to fulfill it?
Hmm. There's so many different layers to this because I guess I've always wanted to be a teacher in the conventional sense.
Mm-hmm.
I worked with kids for 6 summers at a summer camp, and I was like the art counselor.
Mm-hmm.
And um, just to share knowledge has always been one of my favorite things. Like if we're hanging out and we're walking downtown, I'll be sharing random facts.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's just cool to like nourish our brains
Mm-hmm.
and nourish each other's brains.
Mm-hmm.
And because I personally just experienced so much like anxiety during my time in school,
Yep.
and I saw it so much like around me, no matter how genuine some of the professors were in teaching, like a lot of folks that I resonate with, a lot of their learnings were received through music
Mm-hmm.
and through lyricists and through like just hip hop as like a whole. And I always resonated with that too, just learning so much through lyricism and becoming more introspective
Yeah.
while witnessing people's introspection through their music.
Mm-hmm.
So I I was like, okay, I think I'm not supposed to be a teacher in the conventional sense, but it has to be through sharing my vulnerability and my love of puns and singing through my music. And it's just, yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, as much as you try to fight what feels so much like your calling, it's always going to end up haunting you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And yeah, this felt the most natural. And the pandemic was such a paradox because it gave everyone a chance to pause. And yeah, I feel like I've done so much within my musical career within this time because it was like, all right, like you never know what can happen tomorrow. Like the world might be shut down, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna do this.
You know what? There's like a beautiful thing that happens when you realize that. I know you hear this saying all the time, oh, tomorrow's not promised, oh, life is short. But I guess what the pandemic has taught us is like, there's so many unpredictable things and things can change like that. And when you sit there and you fully like understand that like literally, even after this interview, anything can happen. And then it kind of connects you to like, okay, what do I want to do? What do I want to say?
Yeah.
You know? And so when you just said that, it reminded me of that very thing. And it's like what you're doing with music. This is your calling. This is what you feel in your soul you need to do. And so super off topic. I don't want to go off topic, but you mentioned that, you suffered with anxiety in high school, and I can totally relate with that. Like, believe it or not, I even suffer with anxiety, and I used to dance, and dance was that resource for me. Even now, like I don't train professionally anymore, but even now, if I'm feeling really like overwhelmed with feelings and emotions, I'll dance. And I think I'm hearing that with you with singing. When you're feeling, whatever emotions, singing is that tool for you to express the things you can't even speak about. You know what I mean? So I think, yeah.
Exactly. And what you were saying about anxiety is like, because writing is such a therapeutic thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so because I was more of an introvert, even though I was part of a lot of like activities in my attempt to come out of my shell, like with music, because I can ramble for days.
Mhm.
Like the writing process helps me be like, all right, like you're getting off topic.
Yeah.
But also with playing with words, off topic can be weirdly incorporated with like,
I love
like
that. Yeah.
similes. So I felt like the most fluent language for me, like you were saying, like you just feel compelled to dance sometimes when you're overcome with emotion, like writing and singing, like it really truly is like the yeah, I genuinely feel like I've become a channel of just so much energy. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. And I want to talk about, um, like, I would like to read a few lines off of your about on Spotify. I wrote it down. So it reads, a 20-something seed planted in Toronto, covered by Treaty 13. Shqdel releases energy through visual, sonic, and lyrical offerings. Her most intuitive language is to exhale melodic wordplay and run on sentences into poems and songs. Shqdel hopes her pieces console, bring healing, and make those who encounter her creation feel a sense of being understood. Shqdel invites the listeners to reconnect with their softness and be gentle with self and inner child, which will then result in love spilling onto others. I think this is beautiful, and I really would love for you to explain this further and talk about what it means to you.
Thank you so much.
Mm.
Yeah, like so I went to school and to study in post-secondary. I studied sociology.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, so that's one of my degrees. And it definitely gave me a whole new perspective of the world outside of my very sheltered only child Filipina
Mhm.
Catholic lens.
Mhm.
And being just like the sensitive empath that I am, I was just like, wow, I need to do something. I need to do something. But I'm so overwhelmed because I don't even know where to begin. It was very affirming when some of my friends who are and were very active um, community workers
Mhm.
who kind of told me about how my music would re-energize them. And so I felt like grateful that I could be a catalyst to like,
Mhm. Mhm.
like giving back energy to people who sometimes get burnt out from like putting themselves out there on the front lines for things that matter to me that I am too anxious to be there for. So the whole idea of just like things like love spilling onto others, like through my music, and just the intention of love that I put into everything I do, I really hope people feel it.
Yeah.
Like, and with my personal journey, like healing the inner child has been such a huge theme, especially with working with children. Just seeing the ways that certain figures impacted me as a child and seeing how that carries out into who I am today. And then
Oh, you don't
think,
feel good. Mhm.
and then thinking about that when I interact with children, and it's like, if I can somehow validate their feelings and make them feel seen for what they're passionate about in
Mhm.
this moment, like that's all I can do. And whatever happens, happens. But if in this moment, like I can make a positive impact,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like the whole thing of like planting a seed. And yeah, I'm just like, so yeah. Sorry, I'm getting lost in thought because I'm also trying to be on topic.
Yeah.
But
No. Yeah. No, you're
yeah.
great at whatever. Like I always tell my guests, there is no right or wrong answer. Like whatever you naturally feel like saying in the moment, run with that. Like there's no right or wrong answer. And I just want to remind you, you're doing great. So don't even worry about that. I think that like something I hear that you're saying is that connecting with your inner child has helped you a lot. And so I feel like,
Yeah.
and I've been learning this recently that we carry trauma in our body, like from child, from a child, whatever, maybe something happened, and you can carry that in your body. And so I feel like when we find these outlets like dance, singing, whatever it might be, it releases whatever trauma was you were holding on to. And
Yes.
I'm feeling like what you're saying is with the music, it's so therapeutic and it's helping you release.
Yeah.
So I wanted to actually just touch base on um, what do you hope to get out of music? Like if there was an end goal, like what is your hopes or goals that you'd like to achieve with your music?
Mm. Mm. With my music, honestly, yeah, you pretty much said it. Just like I wish to bring healing through the way that it heals me.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish to contribute a perspective that kind of interrupts like the autopilot mode that our brains can get into. You know what I mean? Like, and like that's why it's even so therapeutic for myself, as you said, because my music, I approach it and I see them as affirmations.
Mm.
Like the more deliberately written ones are affirmations where I need to remember who I am. And speaking through that, if people hear it, they hear the I am affirmations too. And that will subconsciously go into their brain. And yeah, my end goal for music is just whoever encounters it, my music, like I just hope it brings like healing.
I hear what you're saying. If you can just touch someone with your singing, that's it. I think that's all it takes sometimes. Um, and I think something that I admire about your music and your sound is you're not trying to sound like anyone else in a time where, you know, um, everything's starting to sound unoriginal, but you kind of are only trying to sound like you, and the sound that you have is it's very soft and light. So, and it's almost like harmonious, like you have a really soft voice. So, how long did it take, or like how did you develop that unique sound?
Uh, um, it it took a while. I just started to harmonize with every song that I would listen to on the radio while I'm listening at like any moment. And because I'm an only child and I was with my parents, like no one's gonna be like, yo, shut up.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, true.
it was very like uninterrupted. Like I was just always singing and harmonizing. And especially as a kid, like when I would be afraid to go in the basement, I would sing as loud as I could because I felt like it gave me like a protective bubble from like
Yeah, yeah,
any like ghost that's like, yo, I don't feel like talking to you, but I know you're here. So I'm
yeah,
just gonna
yeah.
and yeah, and I think I developed my sound by just trying to maintain the sincerity in my voice because that's what I seek when I listen to artists.
I know that Well, one of my favorite songs from you is the green tea mochi. Mochi, I don't know if it's mochi or mochi.
Yeah.
And so I want you to talk about that entire experience, you writing the song, like how it came about, all of that, because anytime I see you at Cypher, I know you gotta pull up and you gotta sing that song.
I'll always ascend like the phoenix again. I'll ascend like the phoenix again.
Like it's just an unspoken, like a given, you know?
Thank
So yeah.
you. I also can't freestyle at this moment, so I always just pull out the written. I hope it gets stuck in people's heads. But thank you so much because thank you.
You're welcome.
Green tea mochi, such a time capsule of my life. So bittersweet. Yeah, green tea mochi was written in a time in my life when I was experiencing a lot of firsts and a lot of transitions and a lot of experiences that I never knew I could get through, about the whole thing of songs being affirmations. And sometimes I don't think some songs should be sang aloud or in too much repetition because the thing can manifest. So with that song, it was basically, I was going through a time of learning about detachment and learning about how like literally everything changes and nothing stays the same, and you can't expect it to, you're just hurting yourself by not surrendering to the natural flow of life.
What is the most important thing to you? It could be musically or just in general. Like what is it? Yeah.
Wow, what is the most important thing to me? There's so many things. Can I say two things?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, the first thing that popped in my head, I pictured myself back in the summer camp, and I pictured myself looking at the more introverted children who were too shy and like were always kind of like on the side. One of the things that's really important to me, especially as like an introverted child, is to feel seen. So one of my favorite things about doing arts and crafts with children, it was like ages like 6 to 13, is the way that everyone, even like you said with these questions, like there's no right or wrong. It's really important that people feel valid and seen for who they are. So even like the most quietest kid, maybe they don't really shine in like the drama class or whatever, but it's like in that moment they can just kind of be in their own space and be loud in what they create. And I love to make them feel seen and like praise them out loud, like, yo, I see you, like that's sick. And like to see them be like feel acknowledged, and then they start to come out of their shell because they felt seen. Like, I feel like that is important to me, feeling seen but in a very genuine way of just being acknowledged for my humanity, and like seeing others for their humanity is important to me, like especially. Yeah,
it's funny you talk about that because like I don't think people would believe it, but believe it or not, I was a very quiet child growing up, like super introverted, super mute, like so quiet to the point where I'd be in a room and someone would be like, where's Kanisha? Like that's how quiet I was. So I feel that to a T, like when you're saying how you want to make those children who are quiet feel like they matter, like we see you, you know?
Exactly. And like in the spaces that I love attending, like I feel seen because people like see me for what I wish for them to see, which is my art. And so yeah, that's a huge thing. Like just making other people feel seen and feeling seen and on a human level and not in a look at me way, like more
Like a
like
flashy way, yeah. I'll let you just list all your socials.
so on Instagram, I'm fluorescent shadolescent, but fleur is spelled like flower in French because I'm extra and I love puns. Shqdel is spelled with Shqdel for aesthetic reasons to differentiate it from my govy. But also, I just burped a little. And Shqdel, Shqdel on YouTube. Where else? Yeah, on Spotify, Shqdel. Also on SoundCloud. Where else? That's pretty much what I use. Like I'm on TikTok too, but I need to get more on my TikTok game.
We'll chat after this. You gotta follow me on TikTok.
Oh my gosh, yeah, yes, please. Oh my gosh.
Alrighty. Thank you for tuning in to Talking Hip Hop. Please make sure to check out Shqdel on all social media, music platforms. Check her out. And also be sure to check out our show on Instagram at Talking Without the G Hip Hop Show. Thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, JustKeekz. And until next time, keep talking hip hop. Peace.